Yo, what is going on guys, Flashverse here and welcome back to another video on Superman and Lois Season 2. And this will be my review and breakdown for Superman and Lois Season 2 Episode 5 titled Girl, You'll Be a Woman Soon. This episode was a pretty interesting episode. There was nothing really that made me go, oh my god, this is insane. It was still a very good episode though. We did, however, get some incredible twists and turns which I certainly was not expecting. We are obviously continuing on with the Bizzaro storyline. That certainly headed into a direction that I certainly was not expecting. But also all that Ali stuff with Lois' storyline does get me very intrigued to see where it would go as well. We did also have that Sarah Cushing quinceanera thing. It's pretty much like celebrating her 15th birthday. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. I think I pronounced it right. But yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. But I wasn't too interested in that storyline. But one of the side stories which I was really a fan of was Samuel Lane training Jordan. That was obviously established from the ending of last episode where Jordan asked Samuel Lane to train him. And we got to see that training sequence in this episode, and we're obviously going to get more. And seeing that conflict between Jordan and Jonathan was incredibly interesting, and I cannot wait to see where this conflict between the Superboys will head as well. But obviously for those who haven't seen the episode, spoiler alert, because this is a review and breakdown after all, so I'll be going over some major spoilers which you certainly wouldn't want to hear from me. So if you guys haven't seen the episode, go watch the episode and come back later for this breakdown. But for those who are staying, be sure to drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel so you are aware of more Arrowverse content coming your way. Okay, so this episode kicks off with a pendant. We're kicking off by learning more about the pendant and seeing it. And we find out that it's tied to Ali. We find out that the pendant is part of a condition in the will. And essentially, Ali basically chooses to hold the pendant and pretty much claim possession of it, despite what it might have done to her family in the past. But she knows it is incredibly powerful, which is why she's pretty much manipulated by it. She really wants it. So we end up getting that flashback and we see how she's able to acquire such thing. And we do obviously end up seeing a present day version of her with her glancing on the pendant as well. But we then cut to a morning with the Kents. They're trying to keep everything afloat despite everything that went wrong last episode with what happened to John Henry and all those sorts of stuff. We have Clark blaming himself with what happened to John Henry because he is obviously in hospital. And Lois is kind of triggered about what's been happening with Lucy. And also she does also blame herself with what's happening about John Henry as well, saying that she was the one that pretty much convinced John Henry to get involved in the first place. But they do talk a little bit about the Ali situation as well. We do then head over to the Cushings and we pretty much see what they're up to. They're getting ready for a quinceanera, which is pretty much a Latino version of saying 15th birthday, I'm assuming, because we did see 15 in the party, so I'm guessing it's some 15th birthday celebration or something along those lines at least. But we have Kyle pretty much practicing dancing with his daughter, and they do pretty much do that to prepare for the quinceanera or the birthday party. And we do have something similar going on with Kyle and Lana later on as well. It was nothing really that interesting, but I guess it could count for some pretty good family moments between them. But we then have Superman paying a visit to Tag. He's seeing how he's doing because obviously Tag was in very bad condition due to what Bizzaro has done. And obviously the other Kryptonians, the ex-Kryptonite users, part of the DOD, were obviously killed off. So Tag was one of the lucky ones that was able to survive, but barely. But Clark essentially visits him. He's checking how he's doing. But also he does ask for the pendant because he wants to try and find where Bizzaro is at. And if he does have the pendant, he could easily do so. But unfortunately, Tag mentions that he gave it to Anderson. So Clark's gonna need to do some convincing to acquire the pendant. We then have this scene at the Kent farm with General Samuel Lane arriving, or Samuel Lane since he's no longer part of the DOD. But he arrives to obviously train Jordan, and Jonathan's wondering what's going on. And Samuel Lane pretty much mentions how Clark might eventually need to get Jordan's help in these upcoming future Superman instances. So he's pretty much preparing Jordan so that he could be ready when Superman would need him. And obviously you do see that Jonathan is getting pretty jealous about that. And yeah, that does play a big thing in this episode as well, and it was very interesting. But we then head to the Smallville Gazette, where we have some conflict between Chrissy Beppo and Lois Lane due to Lois pretty much not mentioning Chrissy the full story in regards to her sister, and Chrissy feels betrayed about this. She doesn't entirely trust Lois anymore, so they're having this trouble working together. But eventually Lois discovers something very interesting, where she looks through old photos and videos of Ali doing her talk, and she comes across the Amertech lady from the mines, that being Dr. Faulkner. She thinks that she might be more involved in this whole situation, so Lois does go after her as well. But we then have Clark as Superman going to Anderson to pretty much acquire the pendant. We do see more of their troubling relationship in regards to them working together, when obviously Anderson doesn't entirely trust Clark anymore. He wants to know more about why this enemy looks exactly like Superman, and it's just becoming harder for him to trust Superman in general. And Clark pretty much mentions why he needs the pendant. It's because he obviously needs to use it to find Bizzaro. But Anderson doesn't believe that, and he thinks that Clark is essentially gonna use the pendant because it just makes him stronger. He thinks that Clark's gonna use it for those selfish reasons, and because of that, Anderson doesn't give it to him, which does pretty much trigger Clark. But you do see what type of an unlikable person and an untrustworthy person Anderson is as well. We do then have this pretty interesting scene where we find out what Ali is really up to, where we have Chrissy Beppo pretty much interviewing Ali in a way, but in reality Ali was pretty much using this as an advantage to take over Chrissy Beppo in a way. So we have this interview taking place, although Ali is about to do something. So we have Chrissy taking a sip of the tea, or it was coffee, it was one of those, but she mentions how good it tastes and stuff like that. But eventually she feels tired, she's beginning to get drugged out, and she just faints. So Ali pretty much drugs Chrissy Beppo, and we see what she's actually up to, where she essentially uses the pendant to kind of manipulate her in some way. But yeah, a while later we have Chrissy Beppo waking up, and she's pretty much experiencing the power of the pendant. She goes into the Bizzaro world, or this mirror dimension, whatever you want to call it, and she sees herself, everything just, a bit off center. Everything is so different, and in this world, like, everyone's afraid of Ali. So it's kind of like that. We do pretty much get an idea in regards to where Bizzaro is actually coming from. But yeah, Chrissy Beppo now knows for sure how much of a psychopath and like how much of an evil and untrustworthy person Ali is, and her and Lois eventually are back together, and they're gonna get to the bottom of this. But later on in the episode, we do have Lois going back to the mines, and she's checking up on the doctor and see where she's at, only to find her dead at the floor. And we do see like everything's just all messed up. She does encounter Bizzaro eventually, but Bizzaro just flies away as soon as he sees Lois, so that was pretty interesting as well. But Lois eventually gives Clark the buzz, and Clark arrives, and Lois pretty much tells Clark everything and how Ali could be in potential danger because of Bizzaro. But we then have the training sequence taking place between the boys, where we have Samuel Lane really focusing on Jordan's training, trying to make sure that he's in pretty much perfect shape, but also like in a good physique, to a point where he could actually like perfect his powers to the best of his ability. And we do see Jonathan pretty much getting jealous of that, and you could pretty much tell where Jonathan's storyline is going to head in the next upcoming episodes. But Jonathan's really jealous, so he goes on and he begins to inhale X-Kryptonite so that he's able to make himself stronger. And because of how jealous he is, he's trying to prove himself to Samuel Lane that he should also be trained, just like how Jordan's doing. And pretty much Jonathan mocks the way Jordan's training by punching bags. He's like, okay, you know what, why don't you just fight a normal person? Let's see how much more capable you are. And pretty much Jonathan destroys him. So we do have that conflict between the boys. It is very interesting. We do have Jonathan slowly leading into this addiction phase with X-Kryptonite, and he's obviously gonna become more and more of a douchebag as he goes on. So that is gonna be something I'm very looking forward to. We then have Lois Lane barging into the room with Chrissy and Ali, and Chrissy Beppo pretty much mentions that Ali could be in potential trouble, and obviously Superman then ends up arriving. Ali is obviously confused in regards to what's obviously going on, and Clark arrives just in time before Bizzaro is able to go after Ali. So we have Clark saving Ali. We then have this rematch between Superman and Bizzaro. It was a really sick fight scene. They fight everywhere. They obviously throw each other on buildings and stuff. But yeah, it was really cool. And we have Clark eventually grabbing hold of Bizzaro. He beats the living crap out of him again. And I did really like that scene where we have Bizzaro using his fire breath and then Clark using his frost breath. And then eventually Bizzaro using his like ice vision. It was really cool seeing all of that. And obviously Clark finds out that okay, Bizzaro is literally the opposite of him. So we then eventually have Clark breaking out of the frozen ice thing he's trapped in, and he just beats the living crap out of Bizzaro and eventually knocks him out. We then have Sarah's quinceanera taking place, or as you might say as well, 15th birthday taking place. And once again, I wasn't really invested in this. I didn't really care too much about it. We do have some conflict once more between Jordan and Jonathan, and it's because of what's been happening with training, and Jordan's just bummed by the way his brother is acting. Sarah is just feeling overwhelmed about what's going on in this party, and eventually her and Jordan go out to relax. And pretty much they're able to eavesdrop on what Kyle says, where he meets with Tonya, who is the bartender he was pretty much hitting on and pretty much getting together with while also married with Lana. So pretty much he was cheating on Lana, and Sarah overhears it and she's not too happy about it. Kyle just begins to feel his world is coming down. Kyle just becomes really stressed about everything. He looks for Lana, and then eventually we have that father-daughter dance. And then we do see that Sarah is just really upset. She's really broken with what's happening. Yeah, it doesn't go well. It ends very badly when Sarah admits she heard Kyle, and Kyle just freaking out at this point. They head out and Lana follows, finding out the truth too. So she does find out that Kyle pretty much cheated on her while they were married. Yeah, the quinceanera pretty much is not going well. During the quinceanera, we did also have Chrissy Beppo telling Lois everything that she saw, and pretty much she mentions how Lois was right all along. She did experience something otherworldly, something related to another dimension. And yeah, pretty much Chrissy and Lois get back together. They're back to teammates, and they're gonna get to the bottom of this. But the episode ends with Clark going to the Fortress of Solitude to find out what's going on with Bizzaro. He obviously goes to Talos Fortress, not his own one. But yeah, Lara is able to essentially translate what Bizzaro is saying, because Bizzaro obviously speaks in reverse. So because of what has happened, Bizzaro is now able to speak normally, and Clark is easily able to understand what Bizzaro is saying. And it was a pretty interesting reveal where Bizzaro pretty much mentions that he's here to actually save his world. So it turns out that Bizzaro is not a villain, but actually he's here to stop Ali and her plans. So I'm really interested to see where that will go. It was a crazy twist which I was not expecting. But towards the end, we then have Jordan confronting Jonathan, and then things come to a head when Jonathan reveals his powers. He gets angry and like his heat vision starts to beam. Jordan obviously gets excited because he thinks that his brother's powers are developing, because that's what Jonathan says. But in reality, he's just consuming X-Kryptonite. So I am really interested to see where that will go as well. He is obviously hiding it for now. Jonathan's obviously hiding the fact that he's taking X-Kryptonite. And it's obviously not going to end well eventually. But I'm really interested to see what's going to happen. But overall, it was a pretty good episode. Once again, as I said during the intro of this video, there was nothing really that was so insane to a point where it made me jump off my seat. It wasn't really like that, but it was a pretty good episode, and I did enjoy a lot of things about it. Most specifically, the stuff with Jonathan and Jordan. I did obviously like the Bizzaro storyline and the connections it had with Ali. I thought that was very well done. So it was a pretty good episode. I did enjoy it, but it wasn't one of my favorites of the season for sure. But yeah guys, thanks for watching. If you guys have enjoyed the video, please give a like and subscribe. Be sure to tell me in the comment section down below what you guys thought about the episode. And yeah, I will see you guys in my next video.